Book Club! In this corner, you know them as the dissecting duo. We've got reviewer Alex and reviewer Adam, and in the other corner, the creative works of Matt Dinniman, better known as Dungeon Crawler Carl and Her Highness the Princess Donut. And here we go.
And with that excellent introduction, welcome to this month's and the first of this year's episodes of the 800s. With no further introductions needed after that excellent one, why don't we just get right into our top of the discussion plugs?
Sure thing. If you joined us before our pretty faces showed up, you heard some music that was Fearless First by Incompetech. You should go check out everything they have at incompetech.filmmusic.io. Bleh. Otherwise, if you'd like to know more about us, head over to dmstable.com and we'll keep you informed about other plugs at the end of the show. But let's get right into it and start entertaining our audience.
All right. Good evening, readers. We here at the 800s are thrilled to be discussing our first book of 2026, Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. On behalf of the Syndicate and the Bourne Corporation, we would like to thank you for volunteering to discuss our 18-level world dungeon and our premier Earth Crawlers as they descend through monsters, traps, and horrors the likes of which only we can imagine. All in an attempt to win back their planet. We are delighted with your enthusiasm for the carnage created and experienced by our crawlers, particularly Princess Donut and Dungeon Crawler Carl himself. Book 7 is released and Book 8 is well on the way, so get out there and read. New achievement! Introspection. You've listened to the boring ass intro from a host you suspect spent less than 5 seconds on it. What a boring asshole! Reward? You get to talk with that boring asshole and his friends. Good luck, bitches!
With that, if this is your first time joining us tonight, first off, welcome. Let me explain what our show is. Essentially, we're a discussion show. What that means is Alex or myself will pose a topic or question to discuss. We will give our own viewpoints, and you guys watching along at home, feel free to put your opinions in the chat. And if we see something that somebody said that was awesome, we will bring it up and say kudos or talk about it then. If you have anything you would like to discuss, feel free to throw it in chat. And when we get a lull in the conversation, we will change the topic to your topic. That's pretty much it. That's how we work.
Also, we are obviously discussing stuff that has some adult themes and topics, and usually we try not to swear too much, but that's kind of half the point of this book. So, fucking sorry, man. Bring kids around at your own discretion. Also, we try to create a fun and supportive community over here at DM's table, and make it a place where people can feel free to enjoy everything that they enjoy without any fear of judgment or general assholery. So in some, be nice or fuck off.
With that, let's get the conversation flowing with our traditional first topic of the night. Alex, chat, Alan behind the scenes, what were your first impressions of Dungeon Crawler Carl?
I have to be honest, this book hooked me by the seat of my pants right from the fucking beginning. I like that the tone of it right from the beginning is confusion. You don't really know what's going on in the same way that Carl doesn't know what's going on. And I think it sets the tone, right from the outset of, this is what it's like to be in his position, at least to some degree, which, if you really think about it, like that is kind of necessary for understanding how he reacts to stuff, going into it. You get Dinman does a really good job of getting you into the mind of the characters while also building and quite frankly rebuilding a world from the ground down, as it were.
Hmm.
And I really enjoyed the humor, like right from the outset. It's weird and quirky, but hits just all the right buttons for anybody who loves anything D&D, fantasy, or sci-fi, like all wrapped into one. And it really just felt like rocket ship blasting off, only down. I don't know. Just it was go 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 right from the beginning, and I loved it. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, I think one of the big challenges of starting a um book of this nature is, how do you set the rules in place and not overwhelm your reader with, a giant info dump? And I think we got a really good way of seeing that in this one without it being incredibly boring with a super lame tutorial. The humor started right off the first page. um Matt Dinniman really set the tone for what his books are going to be, which is crazy, what the fuck is going on here, and incredibly calculated mathematics behind the scenes stuff that also goes on, um, without starting us with a really boring exposition about Carl's backstory or anything. Just, oh, one day I had to chase my cat outside and then everything went to shit. You know,
Oh,
um,
absolutely.
it was really catchy right from the get go, and I was excited to figure out what the heck the dungeon was going to be.
Hmm.
Small shout out right away to, I think it's Sound Booth Audio, who did the
And Jeff
narration
Hayes.
for the
Yeah.
audiobook, and Jeff Hayes, yep, who's the specific narrator for the audiobook. They do a fantastic job with narration, keeping all the voices interesting throughout the entire book, and the sound effects throughout the entire book are top notch. Really brings life to audiobooks in a really fantastic way. So,
Oh,
superb
absolutely
job.
agree. That's it. Definitely is part of that setting the tone. Like, it's as much as like I love reading physical books. This book was outright the best audiobook experience I think I've ever had. And my previous best one was uh The Silmarillion and Lord of the Rings is read by Andy Serkis, who voices Gollum. So like I think that should tell you like the level of quality you're looking at. Like these guys do a great job. And definitely worth experiencing, even if you're not usually an audiobook format person. Uh, and with that, though, let's see what our chat has to say. It looks like VS Drake said they really enjoyed the cold open of the book. The world building is natural, and you learn as the main characters learn. This is lit RPG, but for sure approachable without bogging readers down with heavy numbers. That's actually a really good point. Is like right from the beginning, you get a feel for the mechanics of like how this works without having to basically have a degree in math, to like get where the power scaling is coming from, to get how the mechanics of the dungeon work or the mechanics of even the magic system works. It's like it's pretty intuitive stuff, which is a good point. Uh, Also, VS Drake says they think the book does fine with the main character, but doesn't give like a lot of backstory in the beginning, or in this book at all. And we'll get to that later. But yeah, I think that's part of it though, is just kind of the focus is on the experience from at the beginning. And I think that kind of sets the tone for like how you're going to experience the dungeon once he gets into it. Well, him and Donut, rather than trying to parse through a backstory. You've got just enough to know why they're there and why other people aren't, and that's all you really need,
Yeah.
at least for this portion, anyway.
Yeah, I really liked the in terms of like the math going on, we get like a general sense every now and again where, like he'll say magic missile costs 3 mana points or whatever. And Carl has 5 mana points total, but like he's not like at any time he's not counting oh, Carl has 5 mana points. He's cast this spell, and now he's down to 2 mana points. And a couple minutes later, he's up to three. Like, there's definitely none of that going on. It's just kind of like general idea of numbers, and you know that there's the numbers going on in the background, but you don't have to sit there and read them constantly throughout the book. So I thought that played out really, really well.
Yeah. Speaking of which, why don't we kind of like transition into like our first topic, because even Blue Eye Anomaly, which by the way, welcome to the stream and chatting for the first time. They were also hooked right from the beginning. It seems like that's like a common thing, so why don't we let it carry us on into the next bit, which is what did you think of, like, let's get more into the mechanics of, you know, the crawl of the dungeon. What did you think about how they were presented in more detail?
Yeah, the big thing to think about whenever you consider like a fantasy setting or like a video game setting where like the bad thing is happening and these characters have to react to it, um you have to consider that the characters weren't prepared to react to it. They weren't preparing ahead of time to go do a dungeon crawl like we would if we were sitting down to do a tabletop RPG. We're
Mhm,
sitting down preparing to do a dungeon crawl. We know exactly what we want to do. And I think, that plays out really, really well in this book in that, um, sorry, just checking something on my screen there.
that's right.
Um, that, Carl right away, he's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, holy shit. Like, let me in this door that I can't get through. And
Mhm.
Mordecai opens it and he's all like, I can't open it if there's mobs too close and all that stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, let me lay down the rules. Carl's like, fuck the rules. Jesus Christ. Like,
Well, yeah, it's
um,
real life butting up against game mechanics, you know?
yeah, yeah. I thought that played out really, really well where
Mhm,
Dinniman's like, I'm going to set down that there are rules just like a tabletop RPG,
mhm,
but my characters aren't going to behave like they sat down ready to play a tabletop RPG.
mhm.
And I think that was a pretty cool aspect of the game. Kind of a semi answer, but
Well, I mean, you did a pretty good job of getting into some of the other parts of the mechanics. So I was curious if you had more, and it's a really good point though, is this juxtaposition between game something that's been gamified versus real life, and that's something that I think in a lit RPG where somebody is dropped into the game, like you said, with no preparation, it makes sense to question it, right? Up front, it's just like, hey, this is real life. People's lives are on the line. You don't respawn. That the stakes are actually there. It's not something that you can be like, oh well, I'll just roll another character. And it does show like that there's a line being walked by the crawlers and something that they are trying to figure out on the fly, and I think that is a really good way of building tension, not just for Carl's perspective, but tension between Carl and boring. And the syndicate, everything that is putting this together, and that's to say nothing of the general billions in losses of people's lives. But uh I wanted to get a little bit more into one of the things that I loved about the mechanics of this is that it does a really good job of flavor text, and I think that is an underrated part of games that not everybody necessarily pays attention to. And I think in this case, it was used in a very clever way to help engage people with the mechanics and get them to like care about. It was like, oh, they got this loot. Awesome. I'm only going to pay attention to the one thing that he got that looks coolest to me or whatever, or the one thing that he uses the most. No, like you see at least at the very beginning everything that he gets, and then Dinniman does a really good job of parsing out the stuff that is important to be there and the stuff that's not. Like and it's always something that comes back mechanically later. uh let's use the torches for instance. Like the mechanics of the world help build the world is the point I'm getting to, but the torches I'm bringing up because it seems kind of like a throwaway thing. We see Donut hissing at them every time she gets them, and it seems just like, well, why are we hearing about this torch loot? Oh, it's because later down the road after they have that interview, uh we find out that mechanically this game is more like a, well, it's tailored to what is the most entertaining, and that's a mechanic of the game is what's most entertaining. And it really drives home that point because like we can listen to Mordecai be like, well, your followers are the most important, but you have the pushback from Carl about, well, fuck that, I don't care about it, but you have to care about it mechanically in this game, and it gives you a reason why. And I think there's dozens of examples of that. Um, you know, uh, and also the mechanics of interacting with the world with maps and things like that. I think we take for granted in games how much that limits you, and Dinman does a good job of showing how it limits a character while also showing its possibilities. And I like that the mechanics of this world are meant to both obscure and give possibility, which makes for a lot of fun trying to guess about what's next in this book. And that's part of what carries you through it. And you don't see that a lot where the mechanics of a magic system carry parts of the story like that. In fact, like one of the few that I really see that in is like a Brandon Sanderson type of writer. The magic system isn't just a part of the world, it's a part of the story and the movement and flow of the story.
Yeah. VS Drake called out that he did a really good job showing and not telling. Dinniman understood the game mechanics, but didn't feel the need to whisk the curtain away all at once.
Mm-hmm.
The iceberg effect.
Yeah.
He also called out the AI's flavor text, which I totally agree is one of the best parts of this book series. Is the AI's zany comments throughout the series.
Why don't we make that our next topic then? Let's get more into it. Let's talk AI.
Yeah. So this the AI is difficult to talk about considering advanced knowledge from the next books in the series.
Yeah.
Um but like I love how much the AI is like excited about everything. And uh like these crawlers are having the worst day ever, and the AI is just like, this is fucking awesome. Do that again.
Yeah, except when he describes mana toast. It's toast that restores your mana. fuck you, you don't
What
always
more do
need
you
this.
want?
But like, yeah, that's it's really like I think one of the things that AI does though is it kind of allows you to enjoy parts of this while also allowing for the horror of it that we see from dungeon crawler Carl, like from Carl himself. It's like, yeah, billions of people died, there's like essential as far as he knows 10 million left, and it gets down to less than 1 million after like one level of this 18 level dungeon. And the AI, I think, is kind of like a you're allowed to enjoy this, just we know it's fucked up, but you know outside observers to something that effectively that isn't real enough to care about the well, I mean, it's not that you don't care, but it's not real enough to like really have to sit in the horror of it, but you can still recognize it.
Yeah.
It's the part of us that gets to have fun with the story, except it takes it and ramps it up to like a 20 out of 10. you know
Yeah.
but it's also
So
fun, I think, to see the evolution of the AI too as it goes, and you can feel it having more fun, and that in itself becomes like a bit of a point of plot towards the end too. I mean,
yeah, it's
like
like
actually
the
cool
A
stuff.
the AI is Dinniman's way of still writing a comedy about a cataclysmic event that wiped out almost every single person alive. It's
Hmm.
like, how do you write comedy about that? Oh, you give the narrator a psychopathic mentality.
Exactly. It was also
If you're cu-
interesting. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you're curious, the stats at the end of book one, 700,000, about 700,000 crawlers were still alive, and that's
Hmm.
0.01% of the population.
Hmm. Which, like, when you really think about it, is sad. Like, I mean, obviously, we know that some people didn't go in, but like, going from even if it's just the loss of nine, essentially 9 out of 10 million people, 9.3 out of 10 million people, like, holy shit. And
Yeah,
VS Drake and Blue Eyed Anomaly are right. Like it is comic relief, and it is kind of like for those who play Borderlands, a chaotic claptrap, except if claptrap actually got to control what was going on, which I think would be a very different Borderlands. um, I also thought it was interesting that we get in the first book, we get to see two different types of AI. There's the AI that initially introduces the dungeon, and it's very calm and leveled in the way that it speaks, and it says it was created by the syndicate. And then we get this totally new AI that we don't really know anything about where it came from, at least so far, and it's
yeah,
totally different, and yet somehow they mesh together so that there's some connection there. And I think that was kind of a brilliant thing to be like, oh, they aren't all like this, so this is true artificial intelligence, is this thing has a personality.
yeah.
It's not what we call AI, it is truly an intelligence.
So
Can't believe.
who is your favorite character? What's their best part? What's something that makes them a well-rounded character, i.e., what's something they suck at?
Sorry, I just, before we get into that, had to note, I think it's hilarious that we had to permit foot fetish in the chat request for this book. So thank you for that one, DS Drake. Um, favorite character though. Again,
It is.
like you said, having read the entire series, I'm trying to parse down into this book specifically. Um, because we don't get a ton of other characters until like what, maybe half to two-thirds of the way through the book. Um, and we don't even get a ton of them either, really. Uh, Honestly, my favorite character when I'm trying to remember back to the first time that I read this, because this was my third read through, and yes, it was worth it every time. So I think in the first book, my favorite character was Le Princess Donut. Um,
Nice call out to the shirt there.
well, thank you for the Christmas present that I had an excuse to wear. Um, but I like Donut because it is very. I think it was actually kind of brilliant to have a character in there that has a perspective of the world that isn't human, but has always lived on Earth. So we get kind of this like third perspective because it's not just protagonist Carl, antagonist, Syndicate slash
Yeah.
Warren. You have this third character who's just like, I got to experience Earth. I love Earth and I love humans, but I also hate humans and dogs, especially Cocker Spaniels. And like, and I think one of the reasons why I really liked her though is that realistically, in this book at the very least, she's the only one with like truly significant character growth. And we watch her go from being like, here's this, I just gained sentience, right? Like, what the fuck would that be like in the first place, let alone having it be from a cat's perspective? And it's a character that I think feels like a cat, but also we get the aspects that we tend to anthropomorphize onto cats, and in a way that feels both satisfying and annoying in the way that I think we would think it would be annoying, but also there's a lot of really cool, genuine moments where we get to see her fear. We get to see the fact that she is kind of childlike and growing through this and has to grow up super fast. And quite honestly, as annoying as she can be to Carl, she's hilarious. I mean,
Yeah, Donna is definitely my favorite of the main characters. For a lot of the reasons you mentioned, and
Mhm.
V.S. Drake called out the hamming it up, isn't as dumb as she pretends to be stuff. Those are all really good reasons to love Donut. I do want to give a shout out to Frank Q and Maggie Mai for being excellent, quick villains in the story. Specifically Maggie Mai, because of the moment from the interview where you get that sense that she's got a plan. Like, she asks questions about the potion she's given. Oh, will it jump my find crawler skill to 15? Yes, it'll definitely do that. Why do you want to know? Not telling you. That moment where she's like, I have reasons I'm not telling you because why the fuck would I tell the person I want to murder my plans is a really good villain moment in my opinion that shows off Dinniman's ability to keep it real.
Well, yeah, and I think it was really smart to show that the dark side of humanity, that just because the apocalypse is happening doesn't mean everybody's just going to come together and play nice. Some
Yeah.
people, and how the dungeon itself drives people crazy. We don't know what she was like beforehand, but we do see like even in the short bit on the Maestro's show of how she is both unwinding and also locking in to that plan, which is, like you said, a really good way of like creating you know, a bad guy that you can also understand the danger behind them
Yeah.
despite them being but this, you can't write them off just because they're going nuts, you know.
What I
uh
also love about Maggie Mai too is, well,
mhm.
and Frank, is like from the get-go, Carl's like, I would never kill another crawler, you know, I don't want the skull. You know, it seems like such a horrible thing to do. And we find out that their tutorial guide was like, you have to go out there and kill crawlers. You don't have a choice. It's the only way you're going to survive. And like, makes you wonder, what would Carl have done if instead of being a rational, nice person, Mordecai was like, go kill people, you'll die if you don't. You know, it's a great way to rationalize the I'm gonna go murder people thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is doing I think the way that he phrased it does both things in one. You know, it because if you do it just that first way that you described, it's a little lacking because it's just like, well, now you can judge the justification, but when you have both piled on top of each other, it just becomes a matter of instinct and survival, and you can kind of do the singular justification and set it aside a bit.
Yeah.
It still comes up, but it doesn't come up in the moment as much, at least not beyond Carl's pretty quick thinking. I want to throw it over to the chat a little bit. Blue Eyed Anomaly says that they like the Metal Art group, especially Imani and Brandon, and their desire to do the right thing and care for people who can't do it themselves. And it does, and they're right. It is both a positive and negative trait, and I totally get it. Like I really love them as characters because it showed kind of the opposite of Maggie Mai and Frank Hugh of like what people do in the it shows that what people do in the dungeon is a choice. Even the people who went to that one rest stop or whatever and just sat there and partied until the floor collapsed on them, it was a
Yeah.
choice, you know. You
I
know.
wonder if they did the New Year's ball drop countdown. 10, 9, 8, 2, 1. Happy splat.
I like to hope that it was instantaneous enough that they could do that and just kind of have that last moment. And you know what? Headcanon established. And yeah, but for the Metal Art group, I really like that it does establish that like the characters can make a choice to be kind and do the thing that is hard, and that's the bit of reveal that we get about Carl is that he walks that line between the two, right?
Yeah.
You know, setting the trap for somebody who killed somebody else, but also making the choice that come what may, I'm going to die for a good cause if I'm going to die. And I think those characters are truly supporting characters in that they have their own worlds and decisions, but they support the growth and understanding of the main characters, which is an impressive feat in and of itself.
Yeah, I like Blue-Eyed Anomaly's insight about the dungeon changing people. Um it's not necessarily that they're different than what they were on the surface, but made it easier to do the thing that they were hesitant to do before because, oh well, you know, exigent circumstances, got to do it.
We haven't really talked about them much, and they didn't end up being the favorite characters in this book. But what did you think about the aliens that we see? AI is not included.
Yeah, I'd say we get some exposure to aliens. Obviously there's monsters. I don't really count those as aliens necessarily
No,
because some of them
I'm
are.
talking about
Yeah.
syndicate people.
Um but I'd say, you know, we got Mordecai's kind of skyfowl people and the fish. What are they
Well,
even
we
called?
we get two the Kuatin or mud
Kuatin, yep.
skippers, or they're the ones that own the Borant Corporation in this book.
But
And then we get the Maestro and the orcs.
yeah, I'd say like exposure wise, we get the most above of um the Skyfowl in Mordecai and the Kuatin in their Zev, their representative.
Zav and
Um
Cascadia, and then I forget the name of the temporary interim that sent him to the Maestro show, but
yeah. Anyway, I it, it's interesting to see Dinniman's take on what alien society would be like. And my take on his take on it is that aliens are relatively boring in, in that they're pretty similar to humans, and maybe a little less determined, but the Kuatin are definitely the ruthless nightmare creatures in fish tanks of the of the aliens that we saw, where the Skyfowler were the very human but more passive group of they became slaves to the system. um yeah, it's I don't think we got a big glimpse, but it seemed like there's not anything too crazy out there in Dinniman's view.
I think maybe it's, in my opinion, a little more complex than that, and that it's not that there isn't anything too crazy, but there is a lot out there that we have that seems essentially universal. Whether you're a pig, fish, or human or skyfowl. But there are like the differences in those cultures are more slight shifts that are not out of the realm of possibility for people. It just seems to be, like you said, that humans are a bit more tenacious. Uh, the Kuatin is probably the most interesting one to me because we get probably the hardest character I think to reconcile in this book, and that's Zev. Is okay, she's a part of this Born corporation, and yet Donut, who seems to be like, while very naive, not entirely stupid about people. Like she has, she learns quick, especially after Frank Q, but she does understand enough about people to, you know, have a moral compass about it. And she really attaches herself to Zev, and Zev seems like probably the most human of the Kuatin. So it's a really weird intro to have that and Cascadia, which is the showrunner essentially, whose whole line is get out there and kill, kill, kill. Compared to this character that just wants to write Gossip Girl fan fiction with a cat. You know,
Yeah.
I think it shows that there is a broad universe out there that isn't unrelatable, but also isn't necessarily human either. And, Mordecai does that as well. I mean, it, he's a Skyfell, but also a changeling that is we get through him, we kind of get to see is like what happens after the fact, like immediately after the fact. And then to Via Strake's point, we get to see Odette is like what happens after the fact, and we get to see through these characters the progression of what happens. And I thought that was a really interesting bit of like using a character to create world building and multiple characters in succession to do so.
Yeah. All right. book question of the night from me.
All right.
What was what was the Dungeon Crawler Carl's strongest feature? World building, characters, or plot?
In this book, absolutely. Oh no. Well, actually, I'm gonna have to say in this one, it's world building. It was everything that was done added to world building, and I think what makes it so strong is that the world building happens through basically every other component of the story, and sometimes it just, like VS Drake said before, is show and not tell, but the tell stuff always felt like it was either necessary or it made the story easier to process. It was used judiciously. Um, so I think the world building was the greatest strength, but it is supplemented by essentially everything else in the book, in particular the characters. So tier levels, world building, characters, plot.
Okay.
What
You
about
know
you?
me. You know me. I love me a good plot. What that means, I'm gonna
What
give
plot
some
means to me.
examples here. Yeah, I'm gonna give some examples here.
All right.
Dungeon Crawler Carl, Harry Potter, Aragon. These three books, in terms of plot, have one very specific thing in common. At the very beginning of well, not at the very beginning, near the very beginning of the book, they say, "This is what you can expect. This is what we want to do. This is how it's going to go." And that's what happens.
So you like that it was very straightforward with the like, this is what it's about, and it follows through on it.
Yeah, I hate a book where it's like I'm just gonna meander through some events and things are gonna happen and meh, we'll see where we end up. Like I hate that. I love it because I love when a story is telling a story so that you can get a story out of it. And
Yeah.
Harry Potter is like, this book is going to be about the first year. There's going to be 7 books because there's 7 fucking years for this school. Aragon is like, oh, the you got to raise your dragon, and we got to do something about this empire so that life doesn't suck. Dungeon Crawler Carl, hey, you're in a dungeon. There's 18 floors. This will probably go on somewhere along the lines of 0 to 18 floors. Your
And
goal is to get through them. But
you're
no,
right.
world building was solid, characters fairly solid. In my opinion, my order would be plot, world building, characters.
Yeah. I think you're right that the setup for the plot is important and well done, but the reason why plot is the lowest for me specifically is, and VS Drake is right. This is a really well-rounded like first book, especially considering how much it's setting up. But to your point, the plot is there to set an expectation for like what's going on, and then and it's kind of upfront, but it's happening. But the things that are true plot feel like they're still down the road for the most part. A lot of this is just getting a feel for the world that you're in, a feel for what kind of characters are in it, and that includes like the monsters and stuff. And the plot is kind of left at the beginning and it just happens through the book, and it feels like so much more of it is left for the sequels, that world building and characters feel like the more important bits in this book, because it's establishing that first stepping stone to what at least one would hope, given the quality of the first book, would be a lot more depth and actual plot movement in the other books. So while it's not bad, it is slightly lower for me because the world building and character setup that happens in this first book, I think was essential for building the plot that comes later that does end up, spoil not really a spoiler, but in my opinion, and not to talk too much about it, but it is essential for the coming books and making the plot move up those ranks,
Yeah. Honorable mention for me about Dinniman's writing style here. He's got what I call the chat factor, where he can just chit chat about stuff, and it's entertaining. Yeah. Um, I'd say the weakest aspect of his chat factor is when he makes Carl go through inventory management, where he's like, "Oh, I gotta sort through all of my shit real quick and figure out, and I gotta lot all my points." Like that stuff kind of gets a little tedious. He does a pretty good job of keeping it brief, but there are some longer ones where it's like, all right, keep it going. But he's got the chat factor, which kind of keeps it interesting, you know?
Yeah.
He's got a really great voice for Carl, and it really shines when Carl's just sitting there chit chatting in his own head, talking about the shit he picked up off the dungeon floor. You know?
Yeah, it's really great scene writing, like V.S. Drake said, and I do get your point about the having to go through the boring stuff, but one of the things that you do notice is there's a lot more of that that's front loaded in this book of, okay, I've explained what he does when he picks stuff up, and he does that less and less as and Matt Damon does that less and less for Carl as the book goes, because it's already been established that that happens, and you don't need to keep saying it again and again and again. There
Yeah,
is some of that that happens, but most of it serves a purpose. Like when they get to the goblins, there's a lot of like, here's every little thing that I picked up. But then we get to Crackheron, and really, it's mostly about the stuff that becomes like, the Jugabooms and the what is it?
they
The
mentioned they grabbed the cocaine.
Yeah, or
Things.
the meth bag that they get. Like
Yeah,
it serves a purpose. Very little is just like, oh, this doesn't matter. Because even when he's talking about picking up all this stuff, he gets that achievement for it. Like he gets a gold loot box for having more than, what is it, 10,000, like 10,000 pounds of stuff in his
yeah.
inventory. And so it all has like a build up to something. There might be some stuff that didn't, but not enough that I would care about it. Like you said, it's relatively balanced, even if you're like, come on, I want to get to the good stuff. And with the loot boxes, you do see it too. The first loot boxes, you see literally everything he gets, and then like the second, third times, there's ones where he's like, oh, and it was just a few bronze boxes filled with torches and stuff. Done.
Yeah.
Uh, in the same way that when you go through a game, you start off looking at everything, and then you just start picking up the shit that matters, or you know, uh, ignoring the stuff that doesn't. And in that way, it does feel like it was handled relatively well, in my opinion. Anyway,
Yeah.
uh, seems like we're talking about monsters, so why don't we get into it? Uh, what were your favorite dungeon monsters and why? Bosses included.
Bro, the leg totally sucked, bro. That really hurt, bro. The bro dude, the gym bro.
The juicer.
Yeah, the juicer. Ah, man, he was hilarious. I love that. Like he was the same as the crack Karen, where it's like it was a human that was forced into being a monster. But
Well,
like,
and there was the hoarder too.
yeah, it was like he he had like a better grasp on reality for it. Um, I like it was an interesting fight to watch because Carl was going for a strength build and he got to fight off against a boss that was a strength boss. So like yeah, it was interesting to see like how does Carl match up against a boss that has the same strength he does, and he totally whiffed it, and Donut had to come in for the rescue. It was a really good moment to be like, here's their dynamic, like here's their strengths and weaknesses and how they can play up each other's weaknesses and not die in future dungeon fights.
Absolutely. I think you're right. It's really critical that they not only showed Carl's weaknesses, but also Donut's weakness in, that she almost dies because she goes in for a physical attack when she's got essentially no constitution. Um,
And then pretends she's about to die anyway, even though she just took a health potion.
I, I've died in glorious battle.
Ah,
Also,
that part was
the
great.
quotability of these books. My favorite My favorites were I'm kind of with Blue Eye Anomaly on this. I love the goblins bit because we get a look into like it's our first look into interacting with the actual dungeon monsters and showing that like oh they have lives. These are not just like they or at least they think they have lives. We kind of get a little of that with the Bobka protectors, but like we get to see that so the sentient monsters have something going on too. Hell, yeah, like Blue Eyed Anomaly said, there's a drug war that starts between the goblins and the llamas, but that's like kind of our first look at like, oh shit, these things have some level of sentience, but at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do to survive, even if that means killing a room full of babies
Or
and old
killing
people
her.
with a giant rolling explosive.
And how opposites was it where Donut was like, "Oh yeah," and there were a ton of babies in there. They're probably all dead because of your bomb. And Carl was like, "Oh my god, babies!"
uh, yeah, you're beating me to like my next question, but
We are running a little light on time there, Alex.
yeah, I mean, it was going to be a quick one. But like my other favorite also with Blue Eye Anomaly is the Hoarder because we get to see is like, oh, that's our first look at like what happened to the people that didn't make it.
Yeah.
And it lends stakes and to the loss that has already happened and to what is coming up later. And we get a little view into how that gets used with Mordecai's kind of half half answers about it because he's limited, but still. Uh, and VS Drake seems to agree it shows the tragedy of the dungeon. It kind of like forces you to sit with that, but bounces back with some great humor. And to that point, very quick, what was your favorite AI reward description?
Um, I really like the ones where he's like, "You don't get a reward," or "Living is your reward."
You ran away like a little bitch. Reward? Bitches don't get rewards.
That was pretty good too.
Oh man.
Yeah.
No, that was one of my favorites too. Like, I mean, it's also like, oh, that was actually like my answer was the one that says like bitches don't get rewards. Uh
That's just your job. We're not giving you a reward for doing your job. That was another one.
Leveling up is your job, but you don't get rewards for doing your job. But I like that it's a good way of being like, okay, we reward the dumbest shit, but not everything gets a reward. It,
The
uh,
blue-eyed anomaly with the daddy tax. Well,
Yeah.
oh my god. Time to pay the daddy tax.
Mush.
Oh god.
Oh man, that was actually going to be another one of my favorites. Is the description of the smush skill? It's like, is there anything better? Sounded like a dude jerking off. Which to our point about the audiobook, I don't think it hits the same when you read it versus when you get the actual voice that Jeff Hayes does for that. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like you said, we're getting light on time, though. Do you have any other topics, or
Nope,
you want to get into final
nope.
thoughts?
Cutting you off. We're on final thoughts. What were your final thoughts?
Uh, Final thoughts, and I will say this just because we really didn't get into it. Uh, I think this book is a bit light on character development in general, but I think it's in service of world building so that the character development can come later. Uh, I will neither confirm. Well, I'll confirm that that does happen later. So I think it's worthwhile if you thought the character development wasn't enough in this book. It does come later, in my opinion. But it is a bit light in this book, and there were some points where I wish there was a bit more, in particular with some of the metal art characters and Carl. Um, Otherwise, though, brilliant book, catches you right from the beginning, and you're going full force basically the whole way through. Some great humor, excellent world building. It does set a solid plot from the very beginning that is easy to understand and that has some very tangible follow through. And it does it through characters that have both a lot of potential but are very defined as characters from the get go. And quite honestly, it was my favorite book of 2025, like the series as a whole. It has become one of my favorite books of all time, and it is my favorite audiobook experience, bar none, to this point. Uh, can't say enough good about it. I would recommend it to anybody who feels like they can handle some raunchy shit, because it gets real dark in there.
Yeah, my
Oh,
opinion here was, it was fantastic. It's a book that really makes you want to jump into the next book right away. I'm so mad that book 8 isn't out and I finished book 7,
I've
like,
already got it pre-ordered.
it's like, it's so good, but gotta wait. I will respectfully disagree. My opinion is there is plenty of character growth in this book.
Oh,
Um,
it's not that there's none. I just think that it was the growth aspect was the closest thing I could come to any criticism.
no, Carl has to come to terms with what kind of player he wants to be in the dungeon. Does he want to be a lone wolf? Does he want to stick up for other people? Um, the mantra that he plays in his head constantly throughout this book is "You will not break me," and what that means to him as he goes through the book kind of develops. Donut has to come to terms with not being such a little princess, and we see that in many ways with her willingness to let Carl lead and not be super annoying all the time, um, but also understanding when to take charge, like when she goes to handle conversations with NPCs and
Mhm.
um, use her charm effect. All these things I think play out really well as developing these characters towards, a certain mentality that we're going to see continue to develop as the series progresses.
Yeah, all great points that I absolutely agree with. Like I said, I just think like if there was going to be a criticism, there's some things that like maybe you might want more out of it, but that's a personal flavor. That's a personal desire, like, or preference. That's the word I was looking for. Uh, but yeah, so would you recommend this to others?
No, not at all. I would shove it down their throats and tell them they have to read it.
Well, Blood and Ollie agrees that this is a well, it's a comfort read and listen, which I get. I mean, like I said, this is my third time through, but like,
Chat factor. Yeah.
what? Uh, sorry, hiccup.
VS Drake says top-notch book, well-rounded, and is a great read for anyone who has played an RPG or has a minor understanding of an RPG. Yeah, definitely. Sounds like he
Vi-
would recommend it too.
yep, vibrant, very little downside, and example of strong writing. Yeah, especially in a genre that is, from my understanding, largely self-published, or without a lot of backing, which is all the more impressive.
Yeah.
Whew, freaking hiccups. Glad it's happening at the end here.
Side note too, real quick. If you are into the stats, if you want the numbers behind the story, the Dungeon Crawler Carl fandom site, the wiki site, has a shit ton of stats on it. Like it
Yeah,
delves deep into the details. So like
yeah,
it's kind of cool.
yeah. It's really good for keeping track of that stuff too. I definitely used it while I was reading. Also, for those that don't know out there, I will say this as well. This was a recommendation to us from a bartender at Atwater Brewery who created a drink based on one that Donut has in a later book. And apparently, when Dinniman was writing these books, he had a playlist that is on Spotify that he was listening to that inspired moments in the book. And I read it in this most recent time with that playlist going. Definitely enhances it, especially when you get to cute aggression and the gerbil comes out. It's hilarious. All right. So with that, why don't we go ahead and wrap it up?
Sure thing. Let's see here. Next up on the docket. So we already know about February 7th. We're going to be reading The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. I hope that's how you say the name. I don't know why I always feel the need to say that. Disclaimer, I don't know how to say names. After that, March 7th, The Will of the Many by James Islington.
It's Islington? No.
Islington.
I have no idea what it actually
Islington.
is. I was just you said you didn't know how to say names. So.
The Will of the Many by the name on your screen, because that's easier than trying to say. Anyway, those are the next on the docket. I haven't read either of these, so excited to get some new books under the belt.
Mm.
We'll see how they shape up.
Yep, and coming up for April, just a reminder, our books will be anything under the hundreds umbrella. We'll have that vote up for you shortly. For May, we are going to go with another May the 4th be with you that's going to be sci-fi, and there will be at least one Star Wars book in there just fighting for your vote. So let us know if that's what you want. Otherwise, it is a sci-fi general free for all. If you have any suggestions, let us know, and we will let you know next time about our summer book topics.
Side pieces?
Side pieces. So one of my side pieces was Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green, same author as The Fault in Our Stars. Uh, it is nonfiction, but it is incredibly well written. Uh, I would recommend it to anybody who likes authors that take very real world concepts and do a good job of breaking them down into very human stories. And I mean, I would recommend it to anybody, honestly. Plus, it's great for history nerds. Um, uh, I've personally been making my way through Critical Role, so I haven't had too many side pieces this time around. But
Hey,
I
count Critical
also
Role as a side piece.
uh, season 4 has been pretty wild. Brandon Lee Mulligan. Also, I had took some time and read a book that is it's a compilation of Scottish fairy tales and folklore, uh, which was really fun to see how stories were told, across the span of human history in that region, and very cozy read, except for the parts where the fey creatures decided to steal babies. Um, Actually, there's a lot
Anything
of
else?
dark parts in it, but like I like mythology, so but no, those were my main side pieces. What about you, Adam?
I can't remember if I mentioned this last time or not, but I listened to The Shining. It was the first time for me. I have read other Stephen King books, but I was curious about The Shining, so I thought I'd give it a shot, and it was pretty good. It was pretty interesting. After that, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone full cast audiobook edition. It was free at the end of last year. So I picked it up for free, added it to the library, and decided to start it. I gotta say, it is definitely a really good way to experience an audiobook. They don't just do different voice actors per character, but they also do sound effects throughout the entire book. There's music, there's sounds, there's a whole bunch of cast. Um, DM's tip, the world building, it was about the same, but you know,
I mean, I would
it
argue it's
less
better if you're mentioning the soundscape, because
yeah,
bringing a
less
soundscape to a place kind of brings the world to life, right?
lessen my imagination, more in somebody else's. Uh, but yeah, it's something I really hope we see more of as audiobooks become more popular, is throwing out full cast editions of books. It
Mhm.
definitely adds an additional layer of entertainment to the book. So yeah,
Well,
that
and
was it for me for side piece stuff.
if you're relevant, plug, you did it up at the top at Sound Booth Audio. That is kind of their whole thing. So check them out. That we are not sponsored by them in any way, but Jeff Hayes is the one of the creators of Sound Booth Audio and the voice of Dungeon Crawler Carl, and they do a really good job with their soundscape. So if you're looking for those types of books, you can go check them out, as that seems to be their whole mission.
All right, some additional plugs for you guys, and then we'll say adios. So we have a couple of websites to mention on here. We post these videos on YouTube. Maybe you're watching us there already. If so, you don't need to know about how to find us. But we are the DM's table on YouTube. There should be a link below your video if you're watching us on Twitch currently. We also would recommend you use Audible for your audiobook listening pleasures. If you would like to try Audible for free, head over to dmstable.com/audible for a free trial. And we get credit for sending you their way. If you want to find out more about us, for sure, head up to dmstable.com, where you can find absolutely everything that I mentioned in our plugs section of the night and more. That's where you can find out all about us. We do have a Patreon, which is how we handle voting on what book we read next. We are DM's Table on Patreon. There is a link below your video if you would like to check Patreon out and see all of our posts and stuff on Patreon. Otherwise, we do have two social channels, Facebook and X. We are at the DM's Table on Facebook, and we are at DM's Table on X. As our moderator mentioned, voting is free on Patreon, so for sure, go check it out. That's pretty much it for plugs, though. If you want to find out anything else that I forgot to mention or otherwise, head over to dmstable.com and you'll find out more.
Yeah. And thank you everybody for joining us tonight. It was a fun book to discuss. Finally, not just in the side pieces. So, thank you everybody, and we'll see you next book. And bye, Zev.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us this book. Blue-Eyed Anomaly, thank you for posting for the first time tonight. Yeah, see you guys next book. Don't forget to go out there and kill, kill, kill.
Read, read, read.
Oh right, yeah, don't kill. It's we're not in the dungeon, it's the real world. You can get in trouble for that. And it's immoral. Yeah, it's immoral too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna just keep